Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Stacks of textbooks and scattered papers covered every available surface, a testament to the frantic studying that had taken place over the past few weeks. In the midst of this academic chaos stood two siblings, locked in an intense debate that would change the course of their day and, potentially, their futures. "Come on! You've got to help me out here!" The desperation in her voice was palpable as she paced back and forth, her long brown hair swishing with each turn. "This is literally the worst timing ever! How am I supposed to be in two places at once?" Her brother lounged on the bed, idly flipping through one of her notebooks. He raised an eyebrow, a mix of amusement and skepticism playing across his features. "And exactly how do you expect me
to solve this little dilemma of yours?"
She stopped pacing, fixing him with a determined stare.
"You're going to go to the interview for me."
The silence that followed was deafening. He blinked once, twice, before bursting into laughter.
"You can't be serious. Have you lost your mind?"
"I'm dead serious." She crossed her arms, her jaw set in a stubborn line. "Look, this final exam is worth 40% of my grade. I can't miss it. But this job opportunity, it's perfect. It's exactly what I've been working towards for years." He sat up, shaking his head in disbelief. "And you think sending your brother in your place is the solution? In case you haven't noticed, we don't exactly look alike." A mischievous glint appeared in her eyes. "That's where the fun part comes in. You're going to dress up as me." His jaw dropped. "Absolutely not. No way. Not happening." "Oh, come on!" she pleaded, dropping onto the bed beside him. "It's just for a couple of hours. I'll give you a crash course on everything you need to know about the job and my resume. You've always been a quick study." He ran a hand through his short, dark hair, his mind racing with all the ways this could go horribly wrong. "This is insane. What if they figure it out? We could both get in serious trouble." She grabbed his hands, her eyes wide and imploring. "Please, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. You know how much this means to me." He stared at her for a long moment, feeling his resolve crumble under the weight of her desperation. With a heavy sigh, he nodded. "Fine, but you owe me big time for this." The squeal of delight that erupted from her nearly deafened him. She threw her arms around his neck, hugging him tightly. "Thank you, thank you, thank you! You're the best brother ever!"
Yeah,
he grumbled, extracting himself from her embrace. "Let's just get this over with." The next hour was a whirlwind of activity. She rifled through her closet, tossing clothes onto the bed as she searched for the perfect outfit. "Okay, so we need something professional but not too stuffy. We want to make a good impression without looking like we're trying too hard." He watched the growing pile of clothing with a mix of apprehension and curiosity. "Do you always put this much thought into what you wear?" She shot him a look over her shoulder. "Of course. First impressions are everything in an interview." Finally, she emerged triumphant, holding up a knee-length navy blue skirt and a crisp white blouse. "This is perfect! Classic, professional, but still feminine." He eyed the outfit warily. "And you really expect me to wear that?" "Absolutely." She thrust the clothes into his arms. "Now, go put these on while I find the right shoes and accessories." Grumbling under his breath, he retreated to the bathroom. As he stripped off his jeans and t-shirt, he couldn't help but feel a twinge of nervousness. This was crazy. There was no way he could pull this off. He slipped on the skirt first, the soft fabric feeling strange against his legs. The blouse followed, the buttons giving him more trouble than he'd like to admit. When he finally looked in the mirror, he was struck by how different he looked. The clothes hung a bit awkwardly on his frame, but with some adjustments, It might just work. "How's it going in there?" His sister's voice called through the door. "I look ridiculous," he called back, tugging at the hem of the skirt. "Let me see." With a resigned sigh, he opened the door. His sister's eyes widened as she took him in, a slow smile spreading across her face. "Oh my God, this might actually work." She circled him, adjusting the fit of the clothes and nodding to herself. "We'll need to pad the chest area a bit, and definitely some shapewear to smooth things out. But with the right makeup and hair, yeah, we can do this." He shifted uncomfortably. "I can't believe I'm letting you talk me into this." "Trust me, it'll be fine." She patted his cheek. "Now, sit down. We've got work to do." The next hour was a crash course in femininity. She showed him how to apply foundation, concealer, and powder, explaining the importance of blending and color matching. He watched in fascination as she demonstrated the proper technique for applying eyeliner. "The key is to keep a steady hand," she explained, carefully drawing a thin line along her lash line. "Start from the inner corner and work your way out. And don't worry if it's not perfect the first time. That's what makeup remover is for." As she worked on his face, transforming his features with expert strokes of brushes and pencils, she quizzed him on the details of her resume and the job she was applying for. "Okay, what was my last internship?" He closed his eyes, trying to recall the information she'd drilled into him earlier. "You interned at Thompson & Associates for 6 months, working on their marketing team. Your main project was developing a social media campaign for their new product launch. Good. And what would you say is your biggest strength?" "My ability to think creatively and come up with innovative solutions to complex problems," he recited. "I have a knack for seeing connections that others might miss, which allows me to approach challenges from unique angles." She nodded approvingly. "Perfect. You're getting the hang of this." As the transformation continued, he found himself becoming increasingly fascinated by the process. The way the makeup softened his features, the delicate touch required to apply the mascara without smudging, the subtle art of contouring to enhance certain aspects of his face. It was all surprisingly intricate and, dare he admit it, enjoyable. "Now for the hair," she announced, brandishing a curling iron. "We'll go for soft waves. It's professional but still has a touch of femininity." He sat still as she worked, the scent of heated hair products filling the air. The gentle tug as she wrapped sections of his hair around the iron was oddly soothing. When she finally stepped back, he barely recognized the person staring back at him in the mirror. "Holy," he breathed, turning his head from side to side. The soft waves framed his face perfectly, accentuating the subtle makeup that transformed his features into a more feminine version of himself. "I look pretty." His sister beamed, clearly proud of her handiwork. "You look amazing! No one will suspect a thing!" As he stood up, wobbling slightly in the heels she'd insisted he wear, a strange feeling washed over him. There was something oddly freeing about this transformation. The soft fabric of the skirt brushing against his legs, the gentle sway of the curls around his face. It felt right, somehow. "How do you feel?" his sister asked, noticing the contemplative look on his face. He paused, considering the question. "Weird, but not in a bad way. I don't know how to explain it." She smiled knowingly. "It's okay to enjoy it, you know. There's nothing wrong with exploring different aspects of yourself." He nodded slowly, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Yeah, I guess you're right." As they made their final preparations, going over the details of the interview one last time, he found himself feeling more confident. The initial discomfort had faded, replaced by a sense of excitement and curiosity. This was more than just helping out his sister. It was an opportunity to experience something entirely new.
Remember, confidence is key,
His sister advised as she straightened his blouse one last time.
Walk tall, make eye contact, and speak clearly. You've got this.
He took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders.
Okay, I'm ready.
As he stepped out of the house, the warm sun on his face and a gentle breeze ruffling his newfound curls, he felt a surge of exhilaration. For the next few hours, he would be living a completely different life. And as he strode down the sidewalk, heels clicking rhythmically against the pavement, he realized that he was looking forward to every moment of it. The office building loomed before him, its glass facade reflecting the bright summer sky. He paused for a moment, taking in his reflection in the polished surface. The person staring back at him was a stranger, confident, professional, and undeniably feminine. With a small smile, he adjusted his skirt and pushed through the revolving door. The cool air of the lobby washed over him as he approached the reception desk. His heart pounded in his chest, but he kept his voice steady as he spoke. "Good morning. I'm here for an interview with Mr. Thompson." The receptionist smiled warmly. "Of course. Please take a seat. Someone will be with you shortly." He perched on the edge of a sleek leather chair, crossing his legs at the ankle just as his sister had shown him. The waiting area was bustling with activity, men and women in sharp business attire striding purposefully across the polished floors. He found himself captivated by the women, studying their posture, their gestures, the way they carried themselves with effortless grace. "Miss Anderson?" A voice called out, snapping him back to attention. A smartly dressed woman stood before him, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Thompson is ready to see you now." He rose smoothly, adjusting his skirt with a practiced flick of his wrist. "Thank you." As he followed the woman down a long hallway, he couldn't help but notice the subtle sway of her hips, the confident click of her heels against the tile. Without thinking, he found himself mimicking her gait, feeling a strange thrill as he fell into the rhythm. The interview room was spacious and bright, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a stunning view of the city skyline. Mr. Thompson, a distinguished-looking man in his 50s, rose from behind an imposing desk as they entered. "Miss Anderson, welcome," he said, extending his hand. "Please have a seat." As he shook the man's hand and settled into the chair across from him, he felt a surge of confidence. This was it. The moment of truth. "So, Miss Anderson," Mr. Thompson began, leaning back in his chair. "Tell me a bit about yourself and why you're interested in this position." Taking a deep breath, he launched into the carefully prepared response, his voice soft but clear. "Well, as you can see from my resume, I've always been passionate about marketing and creative problem solving. My internship at Thompson & Associates really solidified my interest in this field, and I believe my unique perspective and innovative approach would be a valuable asset to your team." As he spoke, he found himself falling deeper into the role. The initial nervousness faded, replaced by a sense of ease and comfort. He gestured gracefully as he described his experiences, his painted nails catching the light, the soft fabric of the blouse against his skin, the gentle pressure of the shapewear beneath. It all felt so natural, so right. Mr. Thompson nodded approvingly as he listened, jotting down notes. "Impressive. And how do you think your skills would specifically benefit our upcoming product launch?" Without missing a beat, he delved into a detailed explanation of his ideas, drawing on the knowledge his sister had imparted. As he spoke, he found himself genuinely excited about the prospect of tackling these challenges. The creative energy flowed through him, ideas sparking and connecting in ways he'd never experienced before. The interview continued, covering various aspects of the job and his qualifications. With each question, He felt more confident, more in tune with this newfound persona. He crossed and uncrossed his legs, leaned forward with interest, and smiled warmly. All the little gestures and mannerisms he'd observed in the lobby now coming to him instinctively. As the interview drew to a close, Mr. Thompson set down his pen and smiled.
Well, Miss Anderson, I must say I'm very impressed.
Your enthusiasm and creativity are exactly what we're looking for in this role. A warm glow of pride spread through his chest.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I'm truly excited about the opportunity to contribute to your team. We'll be in touch soon with our decision, Mr. Thompson said, rising to his feet. But I have a feeling we'll be seeing more of each other.
As they shook hands once more, he felt a mixture of elation and a strange sense of loss. The interview was over. His time in this role was coming to an end. He made his way back through the building, head held high, basking in the afterglow of a successful interview. As he pushed through the revolving door and stepped out onto the sun-drenched sidewalk, a realization hit him with startling clarity. He didn't want this to end. The freedom, the confidence, the way he felt in these clothes, it was intoxicating. For the first time in his life, he felt truly comfortable in his own skin. The thought of going back to his old self, of shedding this newfound identity, filled him with an unexpected sense of dread. As he stood on the sidewalk, the bustling city life swirling around him, he found himself at a crossroads. The interview was over, but the experience had awakened something deep within him. He wasn't ready to let go of this newfound sense of self just yet. With a sudden burst of inspiration, he pulled out his phone and dialed his sister's number. She picked up on the second ring, her voice tinged with anticipation. How did it go? It went great, he replied, his voice still soft and feminine. But listen, I need a favor. Can you meet me at that little cafe on 5th Street, the one with the red awning? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Sure, but is everything okay? Everything's fine, he assured her. I need to talk to you about something. All right, she said, sounding both curious and concerned. I'll be there in 20 minutes. As he made his way to the cafe, he couldn't help but revel in the feeling of walking through the city in his new guise. The gentle sway of his skirt, the click of his heels on the pavement, it all felt so natural now. He caught glimpses of his reflection in store windows, marveling at the transformation. The cafe was bustling when he arrived, the lunchtime crowd filling the air with chatter and the rich aroma of coffee. He found a quiet table in the corner and settled in, crossing his legs and smoothing his skirt with a practiced motion. A waiter approached, notepad in hand. "What can I get for you, miss?" The ease with which the waiter addressed him as Miss sent a thrill through his body. "Just a latte, please," he replied, his voice soft but confident. As he waited for his sister to arrive, he found himself people-watching, particularly drawn to the women in the cafe. He studied their mannerisms, the way they gestured as they spoke, the subtle adjustments they made to their clothing. Without realizing it, he began to mimic some of these behaviors, feeling a sense of belonging he'd never experienced before. The bell above the door chimed, and he looked up to see his sister entering the cafe. Her eyes scanned the room, widening slightly when she spotted him. As she approached the table, he could see the mix of surprise and admiration on her face. "Wow," she breathed, sliding into the seat across from him. "You look amazing. I mean, I knew the transformation was good, but seeing you out here, in public, it's incredible." He felt a flush of pleasure at her words. "Thanks. It feels right, somehow." The waiter returned with his latte, and his sister ordered a cappuccino. Once they were alone again, she leaned forward, her expression turning serious. So, what's going on? Did something happen at the interview? He took a deep breath, wrapping his hands around the warm mug. The interview went great, actually. Mr. Thompson seemed really impressed.
But that's not what I wanted to talk about.
He paused, searching for the right words. His sister waited patiently, her eyes encouraging.
I don't want to change back,
he finally said, the words tumbling out in a rush.
This whole experience, it's awakened something in me. For the first time in my life, I feel comfortable in my own skin. The thought of going back to my old self, it feels wrong.
His sister's expression softened, a mix of understanding and concern. Oh, honey, I had a feeling something like this might happen. He blinked in surprise. You did? She nodded, reaching across the table to take his hand. I've always sensed there was something you were struggling with, even if you didn't realize it yourself. The way you've embraced this transformation. It's like watching you become who you were always meant to be. Tears pricked at the corners of his eyes, threatening to ruin his carefully applied mascara. So, you're okay with this? Of course I am, she said firmly. You're my sibling, and I love you no matter what. If this is who you truly are, then I'm here to support you every step of the way. Relief washed over him, and he squeezed her hand gratefully. Thank you. I don't know what to do next, though. This is all so new and overwhelming. His sister's eyes lit up with determination. Well, first things first, we need to get you your own wardrobe. No more borrowing my clothes. He couldn't help but laugh, the sound light and musical. I'd like that, but what about everyone else? Mom and Dad? Our friends? We'll take it one step at a time, she assured him. There's no rush. We can start by letting you explore this side of yourself in safe spaces, like when it's just the two of us. As you become more comfortable, we can gradually introduce your true self to others. He nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. It's going to be a long journey, isn't it? It is, she agreed. But you won't be alone. I'll be right here with you, every step of the way.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!